Hey everyone, welcome again to the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me as always is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
Good, man. Yeah, I'm excited. I thought I liked both of these episodes, but It turns out I really only liked one of them.
I have a feeling I know which one it is, but I'm curious to see what you say. I have some thoughts about both of these episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be doing 2 episodes today. We're going to be doing The Lion and the Unicorn and Showdown. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll be back with Lion and the Unicorn. Okay, The Lion and the Unicorn, written by Diane Duane, Peter Morwood, and Steve Perry, directed by Boyd Kirkland. And in this one, the Red Claw organization kidnaps Alfred, seeking a code they need to arm a weapon of mass destruction that Alfred knows from his days as a British secret agent. Fun fact about this episode, this was actually the last episode of the series. It was not the last episode produced, but it was the last episode they aired before everything turned over into the new animation style and the continuing adventures of Batman. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's still a lot left, though. Like, did they get it done early? That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, all of these shows were aired in different orders from the production, which is what we're doing, the production order, not the airing order. And
right.
I guess it was done before Batgirl Returns. Batgirl Returns is the last produced episode, but
right.
Lion and the Unicorn, I guess maybe it took longer to produce, if that's the case, because it was the last episode. But
yeah, well, getting Kate Mulgrew was really hard.
Well, I think the hard part was probably the fact that they over-rendered the fog in London a little bit, I think, in this episode.
Well, it's easier to fog the hell out of London and then not have to worry about animating Piccadilly Circle.
That's true, yeah.
Shit like that.
Yeah, we have an interesting episode because they're doing the Alfred's backstory as a secret agent sort of thing, which I don't actually know if they did it, if that was an element of his story before they did it here. I don't know if it shows up in the comic before this or whatnot, but that seems to be the standard go-to for him from this point on. But the villain is Red Claw, who I don't like, just generally.
Agree.
And her plot is the most stock bad guy play. It's basically Austin Powers.
It's total James Bond.
Yeah.
It's funny. I like her look a lot. I hate her as a character.
Yeah. And on top of that, you introduce this element of Alfred being this, before he became
formidable.
A butler. Yeah, he's a formidable former secret agent guy, or even if he was doing paperwork, or I don't know what they say. But you bring that up in like 4 lines of dialogue, and then you don't explore it at all in the story.
Yeah, that was for me the biggest annoyance, was that they had this teed up to be really cool, and then Alfred didn't do anything cool except hit someone over the head with a chair. That's it.
Yeah.
Batman takes care of the missile all by himself in the end. Like, Alfred needed to be more involved in the plot and maybe even like save Batman or something at some point.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm looking at this episode and comparing it to not only the next one that we watched, but also one like the one from the first season where it's all about the flashbacks between Rupert Thorne and his brother and stuff. And those guys get a whole episode about these characters we don't really care about. And we get to learn all about their growing up together. The next episode is just a Jonah Hex episode for some reason. And this one, you're taking Alfred, who's a fan favorite character that's been around since the beginning of the creation of Batman, and injecting this new element that has definitely not been, at the very least, in this show before. And all it gets is a couple sentences inside a Red Claw needs $1 million or she's going to blow up London thing.
$5 billion.
Yeah, whatever.
And then she switches to euros or pounds or whatever. No, I guess it would be pounds back then. Anyway, yeah, dude, that's the thing. It's just such a missed opportunity. I would have loved to, like, if you pitched this to me, I'm like, that sounds fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. But anything beyond the pitch, is kind of not good.
Right.
Like I started this out thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a 5, and I was like, I don't know, it's kind of slow. Alfred doesn't do much. Maybe I'll go 4. And now I'm barely holding on to a 3. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's that. I think I kind of went through the same thing where I was like, oh well, I mean, this looks pretty good. London looks pretty murky and gross. Somehow they managed London to look even darker than Gotham. Like, oh, Red Claw. Oh, I don't like her. Oh, all she wants is money to blow something up. I don't know about that. Then the Alfred thing, it's like they don't do anything with it, and it just kept ticking down for me. The same rating wise, yeah.
Like I would have added, like, why did he leave? Let's just say it's the SAS, right? Why did he leave the SAS? What kind of history does he have with this guy who's a brother? Like, there's so much you could do if you really wanted to make this Heart of Ice level good. You would need to come up with some really great stuff there, and they don't even try to get into it. I think that by being veiled about it, that's just going to hint at some deep past, and it just doesn't quite deliver.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, again, not to compare it, we haven't talked about the next episode yet, but we may as well a little bit. But the next episode, you've got this Batman present framing device for literally a story about Jonah Hex that takes place in the 1800s. Yeah. So they didn't need Batman for that story. Do you need Batman for this story? I feel like this could have just been an Alfred story and it would have worked totally well. Even if you keep the same plot and it's like, oh, Red Claw's doing blah, blah, blah. But the body of the story involves Alfred and the people he used to work for and being pulled back into the game or whatever, spy bullshit. That seems a much more interesting story than what they ended up doing.
Right. Yeah.
Because you got Batman and Robin flying to London in the Batwing, which that seems like it's going to be a cramped. What is it? Can you pee in the Batwing? Like, is there anywhere to pee when you're halfway over the Atlantic?
I think there's a hole in the bottom that they pee out of.
But you've got Batman and Robin flying to London. And
showing up in the office, and they're like, "Oh, this is scary."
Yeah, and
he's like, "Sorry to interrupt, but please continue."
Yeah,
like,
those guys don't. Even,
here's our secret file, Batman.
They don't even bat an eye that Batman and Robin have just walked in through their window somehow, and then they just hand all the SAS files over to Batman.
Yeah, I love how London is going to be blown off the face of the earth, and it's a meeting of 3 people is really gonna. That's all you need to solve this problem.
Right,
it's just 3 people in a row. I don't care who those people are. It's not enough.
Right. It could if it was like Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill, and Alfred London, the creator of the city of London. I don't think it would be enough.
Is that really who created London?
No, it was just a name I pulled out.
Okay.
And then at the end, they set up this bomb, right? They say, "Oh, I'm going to launch this bomb and blow up London off the face of the earth." Batman blows it up like 25 feet from Big Ben. He shoots it out of the air, and it's just like a normal bomb. Like, it's not a nuke or anything. It's just last second he hits it with a couple ballistic missiles, and wipes his brow and says, "Whew, that was a close one." And then they fly home.
Yeah. Like, they went through this, like, Temple of Doom type booby traps inside this Scottish castle. And I don't care about that right now. Why can't you give me more of Alfred's past instead of giving you that shit?
Right.
Or Batman's getting into the plane and somehow not knowing Red Claw was in the back seat for, like, a good 10 minutes before she finally reaches forward and tries to choke him out.
I forgot about that. She somehow hides in the back seat of the Batplane, yeah.
When you get in, you're kind of in a rush. He's got a lot to do. I could see him not seeing a 6'5" tall Amazonian woman dressed in bright red. Yeah, I could see why that would just fade into the background.
Well, if you hide in the right shadows, you just mistake it for Robin because it's the same. It's the same color scheme.
Robin, what's with the gray streak in your hair? Whatever.
Robin,
let's go get that missile.
You've grown in certain areas.
Robin, you're showing some sexy soldier. Sorry, Robin, you're showing some sexy shoulder. I like it.
Yeah, I want to tell you, I'm totally here for it, and you do you, man. Whatever you feel comfortable doing. I wonder. So they're getting to the end of this season. They've done 80. This will be Lion and the Unicorn was the 77th episode they produced. Batgirl Returns, which is the final episode, is 85 episodes. So they've done like 85 episodes straight. I wonder if they're running out of steam a bit because I've noticed this season they seem to be going out of their way to get Batman out of Gotham.
Right.
You've got the Egypt episode with Ra's al Ghul,
Right.
the episode where they end up in the forest with Killer Croc. This one,
Right.
Batman goes to London. The next episode is just the Old West. It's a lot of non-Gotham stuff, and I wonder if it was they just wanted to mix it up and just do some new stuff. Are they running out of
Right.
ideas? I'm not really sure, because sending him to London in and of itself, not a terrible idea, but
Right.
it's not based on. It seems to me, based on what they spent their time on in this episode, it was more.
Right.
There was more interest in doing new locations and new drawings than it was the story.
So the reason I don't think that's true, because I'm looking forward to the I'm looking at the list of future episodes here. Riddler's Reform is very good. I don't remember Second Chance. Oh, I think it's no, I don't. Harley's Holiday is really good. Lockup is interesting. Make 'em Laugh is great. There's another one with Mr. Freeze coming up that's fantastic.
Right.
Like, I don't. If you're saying that maybe they're running out of gas, like, I don't feel that way by looking at what's coming up.
Yeah, and I mean the stuff that we've had before this has been pretty solid. I mean, Baby Doll was really good.
Right.
The Harley Quinn episode was really good. House and Garden is really interesting. Trial is cool. So it seems, I mean, maybe they just hit a rough patch in this one, and this was just like we got to get this one done.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think Deep Freeze, especially as an episode, it's not as good as Heart of Ice, but it is really close, in my opinion.
And Showdown, the next episode we're doing today, is, while it's probably not one of my favorite episodes, they pulled out a lot of stops on that one. Like, the animation on that is fantastic, but we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So why do they call this Lion and the Unicorn again?
That is the password that Alfred has. He has the second half of the password, and the password is Lion and the Unicorn. I believe it is it is something to, I guess I can look it up. But I believe it has something to do with Parliament or something. It's a symbol of the government, I believe.
Okay.
Because I think I could be making that up.
Yeah. Have you ever drawn London before, or like the fog in a city that looks like London?
I have not. Just real quick. According to Wikipedia, the lion and the unicorn are symbols of the United Kingdom. They are, properly speaking, heraldic supporters appearing in the full royal coat of arms of the United Kingdom. The lion stands for England and the unicorn for Scotland. The combination, therefore, dates back to the 1603 ascension of James I of England, who was already James VI of Scotland. By extension, they have also been used in the arms of Hanover between 1837 and 1866, and the arms of Canada since 1921.
Okay, so not random. Got it.
Right.
I mean,
gotta be thorough.
To take it further, like, I would have made Alfred's code name the Lion, and then the other guy would be the Unicorn.
Sure.
He wants to be the Unicorn. He got the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
And then make the other guy have a Scottish accent, and Alfred obviously has a British accent.
Yeah.
And make there's the beginning of a good backstory already.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Instead, the way it comes out is he gets juiced up with truth serum, and Alfred's like, I'm just gonna speak gibberish, blip, 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 and he just starts saying it, and then he starts saying the Lion and the Unicorn, and Red Claw's like, oh, that doesn't sound like, that gibberish seems more reasonable than the other gibberish. That must be the password. It did get me thinking. It did get me thinking about those scenes. You know, they do those give me the password scenes a lot, and I was thinking I couldn't decide whether it would be great or if it would be stupid to do a scene like that where the person who's doing the interrogating is like, give me the password, and the other person says, go fuck yourself. And then they keep going back and forth like that, and ultimately it turns out the password is go fuck yourself.
Yeah. That's been lampooned somewhere.
I'm sure it has. It's basically Who's on First, but for passwords, I guess.
I tell you though, my favorite scene ever of a secret agent giving up passwords and he's under the truth serum is in True Lies.
Yes, yeah.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
When he starts telling them, first I'm gonna kill you with the Patterson job on the table. Then I'm gonna, you know my handcuffs? I picked them.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's such a fucking good scene.
Yeah. James Cameron, probably the best batting average among directors in Hollywood, I think.
Yeah.
It helps that he's
I
only
have to
made
get my spreadsheet out.
Yeah, it helps that he's only made like 6 movies though. So.
Yeah, when he does a mic drop after Avatar and he hasn't done much for 10 years, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has nothing to apologize for.
Oh, he's looking to bring that batting average way down with Avatar 2 through 5 whenever those come out.
Yeah. Well, they have the theme parks, so what are you going to do?
Sure.
Not make those movies?
Right,
I mean, hello.
Right, yeah.
For me, what I was trying to think, like, I'd like drawing London. So that's what I was asking you about, drawing London before. I have drawn it in Hellblazer and even drawing Gotham back in... I did draw London in Curse of the White Knight. And I got to go back to, like, London right before the Great Fire. And the London Fire in the 1666 happened right around the plague. It was a really shitty decade for London, obviously. And trying to find the right kind of houses with the thatched roofs and all that stuff was kind of tricky, but I was pretty happy with the way I pulled it off. I do like drawing London if I have time, so that might be the thing that I want to draw. But I want to draw Alfred and his buddy kicking ass through London.
Yeah. The one thing that I really liked about this episode is the sequence where when Batman and Robin are working their way up to find Alfred. And there's this great scene where they're like down in the sewers or something, and there's 3 guys with guns who are walking, and then Batman and Robin silently take them all out one by one.
I know.
That was great. That was some top-notch Batmaning.
And it's like not that hard to animate because they're in animation cycles, walking towards the camera, black background, and you see Robin blur, and one guy's just missing. It just happens 3 more times. Like, you can, like, that must have been like a day of animation.
You can almost see like the animator's thumb in screen as he grabs Robin's cell and just slides it to the left to make it look like he's going across the screen. But
I thought too, like, how would you do that in comics? Like, how would you get that moment to moment gag? How would you portray that, or is it even possible?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I would want to draw, because I was thinking about that. It's like that's such a Batman thing. That is, if you're trying to go for that sort of energy, it can be difficult to do because you're only working with static images.
Right.
So I think that would be fun to do, like a page of that where you've got. I think you probably need most of a page to do that.
Yeah, you might need small panels.
Yeah.
You show like all 5 guys, then a blur, and then panel 3, one guy's missing.
Yeah.
Then another blur, and then panel 5, another guy's missing. So you'd have to do a lot of statting. It could be pretty monotonous. I bet by the end of the day you're going to regret that.
Well, I think it depends on how you do it, because I think you could kind of do the thing where you see the guys walking, and then you see Batman's hand like each inching in from off the top of the panel, like he's about to grab him, and then the next panel, the guy in the front, maybe you shoot him from the back. He turns his head, and that one guy's gone now. So I think you can get a little credit. I don't think it has to be straight into camera the way they're doing it here.
It's interesting because if you don't have time. You just need Batman and Robin to take out 5 people.
Right.
You can do that in one splash if you really want to.
I was going to say 3 small panels of fists punching faces and you're good to go. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And then a few panels of sound effects and then pull back and you see everybody's knocked out except for Batman and Robin. So it is cool when artists do go that extra length because it's not what you expect to see in comics all the time.
Right.
It's definitely somebody who likes that kind of storytelling and is going all out. Because I don't think that's the kind of script you're really going to get. Because writers don't think that way. That's a sequential brain thinking about that.
Yeah. I wonder, do you ever feel, and you've written for other artists, not a ton of times up to this point, but you have done it.
Yep.
Have you as an artist or as you as a writer ever felt like the artist
screwed it up?
No. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. The artist thought that the artist had a different idea of what the money page was than you did. So, like, if we're talking about this story, you might think that, the page that I want the artist to put all his work into is the one where Batman and Robin come like busting up out of the floor or something like that. But the artist, whoever they are, might be more sequential minded. So they put all their money, they put all their time into this scene of Batman doing Batman stuff underground. Have you ever felt that way where like you get a script and you focus in on something where you're like, oh man, this is going to be great to draw. This is going to be where I put my energy, but it's not what maybe the script could possibly have intended was that scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, with Mateo on Harley right now, I mean, the difference is like I will tell my artists, hey, this is where your calories go. This
Sure.
is where you focus on. If one thing in this issue needs to be it has to be this thing. And then I'll give them easy pages and say, hey, just I know this is mostly talking heads. If just give me one background and one panel, and this could be like a half day. So relax on this page. But the page after that, I'm going to need you to take it up to 11. When I was working with Scott, it was like, take it up to 11, take it up to 11, take it up to, it was like, he never said those words, but like
Sure.
the stuff that he was having me draw, it's like, oh my God, I'm not getting any breaks here. Every other page is like 1,000 mermaids attack somebody. So I try to pull my punches when I can and really go at it when I need to as far as my scripts go. So I generally try to describe it to Mateo, and generally he does exactly what I'm looking for.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's because I'm super good at describing things, which probably isn't the case, or if he and I are just very similarly minded as artists, that we just generally go towards the same high points.
What about
Have you?
What about with you as the artist? Like, say on something like Joe the Barbarian or Hellblazer, was there ever stuff that you zeroed in on where you're like, oh, I'm going to draw the shit out of this staircase, and then it's
No, Joe the Barbarian. The script was like, Joe is he's this kid. It's like never-ending story type of thing. This kid gets home. He's not feeling well because he needs his meds. He's walking through the house, and I drew the ass out of that house. I gave it like the correct, passe 1980s Aztec furniture. I had the colorist color it just right. Like I was going nuts, and he gets to his room, and Grant Morrison was like, yeah, he's got like soldiers and blocks and toys, and I'm like, no, he's got a train and a gerbil and like Transformers and GI Joes and this and that and laser tag and blah 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 blah. Like I made it the ultimate 1985 kid's bedroom, basically.
Right.
And it wasn't even set in 1985. I was just like, well, this is where I'd want to be. Like, he didn't have an Xbox. So I went nuts on that. And then the reviews came back like, wow, we love this whole sequence. Like, some people wrote breakdowns of that moment-to-moment storytelling. And I was flattered because I'd never really gotten that much attention as an artist before in my life. And I think Grant was stunned. He's like, oh, shit, I just wrote blocks and stuff. Now I'm going to have to, like, go back and write the space captain says this and the robot says that,
Sure, yeah.
So I think I startled him by focusing on that. But I don't know what else I was supposed to focus on because that was supposed to be the big splashy stuff of the whole issue.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting how that plays out between artists and writers sometimes. The one time that I felt something like that was I was doing this book Redline, and it's pretty lewd as far as the humor and stuff goes. And there's a scene at the beginning of one of the issues where this guy has a suicide bomb vest go off, and the only thing that's left are his shoes and his giant severed dick. And
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, in the script, it's like all its glory, severed dick, blah blah blah. But I'm like reading this, going like, well, I don't want to go too over the top with this severed dick thing. I'm going to try and focus on like the reaction shots. So I did my layout and I sent my layout over, and the writer wrote back. He's like, no, I need you to go as big as possible of a panel with this severed dick. And I was like, okay, if that's where you want me to put my energy, that's where I'm going to put the energy. So I ended up doing like almost a splash page worth of just a giant severed cock. And it was, to this day, it's still the most disgusting thing I've drawn.
Yeah.
Redline available now in most comic book stores.
Get the variant cover.
So what would you rate this one?
Man, if I was generous, I'd say 3, but I'm gonna say 2.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. Oof. It's so much potential.
Yeah. I'd love to have our whole redo on this one.
Yeah.
Like you said, that episode with the Rupert Thorne and his brother, the priest, that got more treatment,
right?
More care than this did, and this is fucking Alfred,
Right? Yeah.
Bring back that team and just redo this one.
Yeah, I'm
get rid of Red Claw.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chalk this up to we got to get one out the door. It just feels like this one is a got to get it done. We got to hit our quota kind of thing. They can't all be Heart of Ice. So.
Yeah. Hey, I do have one more answer for the question you posed about have you focused on the wrong panel. So at the end of I think in Tokyo Ghost and in Chrononauts, I was so exhausted that I know that the writers like really wanted me to do this, focus my energy on this like city 3-point perspective shot, whatever it is. And I was so tired. I'm like, no, that's going to be a smaller panel, and the big panel is going to be a close-up of a face.
Nice.
Because I am tired. I've given you all kinds of amazing things in the first 3 issues. Like, just be happy with this and be thrilled that I'm getting it done on time.
Yeah. That's one thing that I still haven't totally I'm still learning as an artist is establishing shot or like city shot or exterior shot doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like the top third of your page. You know, It doesn't have to be a giant panel every time. Like, Mike Mignola is really good at doing. A lot of times he's got like an establishing shot that's a tiny little panel of like a very hard graphic black and white like grid drawing of a building, and it's like I wonder in the script,
Romanian tower with some bats and a sunset.
Yeah,
and it's like the size of a stamp.
Right, exactly. And I sometimes wonder if those panels in the scripts, if the writers were like, okay, establishing shot of this building, the building is important. This is where a lot of the action happens. So I'm guessing they're going to do like a big splashy 3-point thing, like maybe looking up from the ground to really show how big this like company is, and then you get like a 3-inch by 2-inch or 3-inch by 1-inch sliver of a panel that just says like later next to it or whatever.
And Mike's like, actually, I drew it I drew it as you were saying that sentence, and it's already so it's done.
Yeah,
but I mean, he writes his own stuff, so he has zero interest in drawing modern cities. Yeah. He wants to draw Romania, so the only modern building he draws is like the headquarters in Connecticut,
right?
Which is basically a Frank Lloyd Wright building, which doesn't make sense, but who cares? It's awesome,
right? Yeah.
And there isn't a single car in Hellboy ever, I think. He does not want to draw cars. It's very clear, and that's fine. It works for him.
Yeah.
He draws boats and dragons and all kinds of things.
He's made a great career for drawing exactly what he wants to draw, and I am incredibly envious of him.
This is so I interviewed Todd McFarlane a few days ago, and we were talking about this too. And he's like, man, when we started Image, like Jim wanted to do this team book, and Rob wanted this team book. I'm like, are those guys nuts? You know how many costumes you got to keep track of?
Right.
Like, give me a guy in an alleyway with a bad attitude holding a gun at night. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do too, Todd. Fuck these team books.
Yeah. Have you listened to Rob Liefeld's podcast at all?
No, you were texting about it the other day.
It's really interesting. It's all the backstage stories from that whole time. He did 4 episodes on Heroes Reborn, the whole sequence where Rob and Jim Lee went back to Marvel. In the late 90s. It's really fascinating. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I mean, I never met Rob. I respect him. Like, he says a lot of really smart things sometimes. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that. Seeing what else he says.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good listen.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so that's gonna do it for Lion and the Unicorn. We will take a quick break and we'll be back with Showdown. Showdown, story by Kevin Altieri, Paul Dini, and Bruce W. Timm. Telepply. It's the first thing that's absolute. Was it positive lies?
Keep
Nothing
rolling.
Going wrong?
Don't cut it.
No, I'm trying to think of the Simpsons
authenticity,
joke.
Clay.
Yeah. Story by Kevin Altieri, Paul Dini, and Bruce Timm. Teleplay by Joe R. Lansdale, directed by Kevin Altieri. And in this one, Ra's al Ghul narrates a story from his past in which Jonah Hex stops his plan to destroy the Transcontinental Railroad, which is being completed in 1883 by using a war blimp. First big question. Mm-hmm. Why did they decide to use this episode of Batman to do a Jonah Hex episode that's basically the plot of Wild Wild West?
Before Wild Wild West.
Was it before Wild Wild West?
Yeah. I think so. Men in Black came out in '92, I think. This was hold on. You talk. I'll do some research here.
Yeah, Wild Wild West is 1999. Yeah.
Okay. You're faster than I am. All right.
But this is part of why I was wondering if maybe they were if not running out of steam, just trying to figure out ways to do new stuff, because like. There's There's an episode of Miami Vice in the final season of Miami Vice where Crockett and Tubbs at this point, they only show up for like 5 minutes an episode, and it's turned into like the Switek and Zito show or whatever. But Zito's dead at this point. But so this episode is Crockett and Tubbs at the beginning of the episode meeting these new hip young cops who are like 21 Jump Street type cops. Yeah. And Crockett and Tubbs are like, okay, we're going to be your contacts. You guys have to go undercover and figure out what's going on at this drug ring at high school. And they're like, okay, guys, no problem. And then the next 45 minutes is just these brand new characters who all suck doing this like lame backdoor pilot for this 21 Jump Street ripoff. And then Crockett and Tubbs show up again for like right before the credits. And that's kind of what this feels like. It's actually a really well done episode, but I can't figure out why they decided just to do a Jonah Hex episode.
Though this generation of these writers loved Jonah Hex. Yeah. Like you and I are too young to really get it, but it would be like me doing I got to do a Zorro story with Batman. Mm-hmm. People are like, no one cares about Zorro. Like, I don't care. I only have one. I'm going to do it now. Fuck you guys. I'll make a Batman bookend. Ha! Sure. That's what I think happened here.
Sure.
And it was right after Unforgiven came out.
Okay.
So Unforgiven came out in 92, and I'm assuming this was animated in 93 or 94. So it was kind of off the heels of like 90s cowboy resurgence.
Sure.
So I think it kind of checked two boxes for them. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the only way if you want to do an Old West story. Save for sending Batman back in time somehow. It's probably the only way you could get away with it.
Yeah, with the Lazarus Pit thing. So he's got a son, and maybe he's super old now. But who's to say this kid didn't dunk in the Lazarus Pit at some point to live 100 and something years?
I think that's what they say. Is that when he was a kid, he was in the Lazarus Pit, but he was in jail too long. So he couldn't go back into it again.
Right. But it's funny because the bookend doesn't connect. Like, there's nothing in the railroad, for example, that's connecting the two sides of the country together. There's no artifact that connects to modern day Batman at all. This story has nothing to do with Gotham, nothing to do with Batman. Yeah. And they could have had a bookend.
I was just gonna say
did that.
I was just gonna say Ra's al Ghul doesn't even do anything illegal. He breaks into a nursing home with fucking Spider-Man ninjas in order to get his son, and take his son home.
Over the top.
Yeah,
technically assault, breaking and entering. Like you did.
Why didn't he just wait until it was visiting hours and check him out?
That is a good question. Actually,
he can roll up with Ubu and say, this is my friend Ubu. I'm here to check my father out of this place. His name is
okay, fine.
His name is Arcady Al Ghul or whatever.
Right. Like, all right, you weirdo who named him this weird name. None of us at the nursing home know how to pronounce. So, take him. Fine.
So yeah, it's weird because it is a really ham-fisted, convoluted way to get and it's literally he hands him a cassette tape where he tells him the entire story. So it's like this really convoluted roundabout way to do it, but once they get to the Old West, I think all of that stuff is really cool. The animation is great. I love westerns, so I remember seeing this as a kid and thinking it was awesome. Just the way they get.
Did you know about Jonah Hex before this?
I don't think that I did. Maybe I did at that point. I honestly can't remember.
I didn't know at all. I don't think it was until like 2005-ish. I was talking to Jimmy Palmiotti, who was writing Jonah Hex, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that episode of Batman? And I don't remember them saying Jonah Hex, but they must have.
Yeah,
right?
they do. They do. Yeah.
Okay, so I was just an idiot kid, and I didn't connect the dots.
Yeah. I've always had I haven't read a ton of Jonah Hex, but I think his look is awesome. He's a very cool looking character. So yeah, it's fun to see this Old West stuff. And Elizabeth Montgomery, is it Samantha from Bewitched? The main girl from Bewitched is the voice of the barmaid, and I believe this was the last thing she did before she died.
Oh, Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, she died pretty young. I think she had cancer.
Yeah.
A lot of
I had a
that
crush on
going
her when I was a
around.
kid.
A lot of that going around, unfortunately. Cancer, not crushes. Crushes are great.
Okay. Wait, so what do I make a joke, or do I mourn the loss of someone who died? What's the energy right now?
We could just move on.
Anyways,
Yeah.
shit, all I can think about is the bookend when I think about this episode. So one thing I noticed about Jonah Hex is he used to be a slave, but he's white, and he's wearing a Confederate jacket, like the Confederate colors.
Is that part of
I'm
his
sure
thing? He
there's-
used to be a slave?
Yeah.
I guess I could.
So we need a Jonah Hex fan to answer this in the comments, but why wouldn't Jonah Hex be black? And I'm not trying to just race swap a
Sure.
character, just earn liberal points, but it just seems like it'd make a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah.
But then why would a black slave be wearing Confederate, like a gray, or for that matter, maybe he's not wearing, maybe he fought for the North. I don't know. And he just decided to put on a gray jacket at some point. I have no idea.
Let's see. Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was sold into.
Should have researched this.
According to Wikipedia, his born in 1838 in Missouri. Jonah was a regular victim of physical abuse as a child at the hands of his father. In 1851, his father sold him into slavery to an Apache tribe. So it's so he was sold into Indian slavery. So that's probably why.
I guess that works. I mean, I don't know about Native American law in 1830s, but I'm sure they would take a kid as trade.
Yeah. I think the larger answer to your question is because I think that probably was a bit too hot button of a character for the time he was created. Although,
right.
He was created in 1972, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that seems like the perfect time to create a character who's basically Django from Django Unchained.
Didn't they have a Django Jonah Hex crossover comic?
I believe they did.
Yeah.
Or wait, if
Django is like,
I don't know if it was Django and Jonah Hex. I think it was Django and Zorro, actually.
Oh, there we go. You know what? I always find a way to bring up Zorro, don't I?
There you go. Yeah.
Sorry.
But honestly, I would say if it wasn't for Django, although there's no reason why there can't be more than one similar story, but if you're going to reboot Jonah Hex, that's a great idea. Because you turn him into a black character who was a slave who probably doesn't fight for the Confederacy at that point. But
yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the stuff as a kid. I've never really been into Westerns. I really like Young Guns 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Zorro kind of counts as a Western. I didn't really get into the spaghetti Western stuff until later when I was learning more about film and samurai movies.
Sure.
What was your introduction to Westerns?
I think I came in through the Clint Eastwood stuff. Whether it was the Italian ones. I went through when I discovered, oddly enough, I didn't like them for a long time when I was a kid, and then probably around like late high school, early college, they just really clicked with me. And so I got into all of the Italian stuff, and I love the Clint Eastwood stuff, whether it's the Leone stuff or even like Hang 'em High or High Plains Drifter or Unforgiven, obviously. I'm a big fan. I got into many arguments with people when I was younger about why Clint Eastwood was great and John Wayne was a piece of shit, and I stand by all of those arguments.
Yeah, the 60s Western, obviously before my time, yours too. Westerns got hot in the late 80s. Oh, sorry. No, stupid. Yeah, 60s and 70s, but that was the spaghetti stuff, not the John Wayne stuff.
Yeah, the John Wayne stuff
Wayne stuff had to be way earlier.
Yeah, the John Wayne stuff was was more or less over by that point.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I had my dates wrong.
It was Westerns were like the most popular genre in America for a very long time. Like all of the action adventure TV shows through the 50s were either like war shows, Westerns, or cop shows, essentially.
It's crazy too. I mean, because the Western stuff, I think there's only like 15 years that the true quote Wild West was kind of a thing, and then it was over. So you had people like getting on airplanes in 1940 who like knew someone who was literally in the Wild West.
Yeah,
you know,
John Wayne.
It all kind of happened not that long ago.
John Wayne, I believe, if it wasn't John Wayne, it was like a slightly older contemporary of John Wayne, went to Wyatt Earp's funeral.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really does take the timeline of America and show how young of a country we are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And
it's like you and I romanticizing, World War II or even like just Vietnam. It's not that long ago.
Right.
But it was right before we were born.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it is also really interesting how it is this, not only is it not that long ago, but it's a very finite amount of time, like you're saying. It's not like the American, the myth of the American West is something that reaches back for decades and decades and decades. It's like you said, it's like 25 years where they were out there expanding and then everything was over.
Yeah, we have been spending more time thinking about the Wild West and making art about the Wild West than actually existed in the Wild West.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Like at the time they were like, oh, that was a weird 15-year period, but it was over quickly and we moved on. Like, you guys in the future are really obsessed with that? We're like, yeah, man, don't you know who John Wayne is?
Yeah. Well, it's an era that due to mostly people writing about it, was ripe for these like morality plays of good versus evil and stuff like that. Right. And then after if you run the well dry of all those stories, you keep it interesting by making it an amoral or immoral area where it's like there's no good guys and no bad guys. And so it's a really fascinating, and all the imagery is great. It's just a very evocative look of everything, with whether you're the hats alone, but once you add in like the dusters and shit and people walking in from the desert and stuff, it's just a great evocative image of time. Totally.
Yeah, man. So it occurs to me the first Western I really saw as a kid was Back to the Future 3.
Yeah, that was probably the first one I saw too. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember thinking, man, this is kind of interesting. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of nods going on here that I don't recognize because I haven't seen any goddamn one of these movies before.
Yeah. Well, the first two I remember I ever saw were Back to the Future 3 and Three Amigos. And I always loved Three Amigos, but the only jokes that I got were the jokes, obviously. Mm-hmm. And once I was more well versed in Western movies, going back and watching that movie again, it's just like all references and stuff that I would never have picked up.
Yeah. Do you prefer that movie or Blazing Saddles?
Oh, I don't. I think Blazing Saddles is a better movie, but I think I love them equally, probably.
Yeah. Have you? I've never drawn a Western. It's one of the genres I have not hit, and it's such a clear missing. It's missing from my spreadsheet in my brain. Like, I've done sci-fi a few times. I got to do samurais, Batman, noir, whatever, space, but never done Western. I think someday I'm going to have to.
A lot of horses.
What about you?
A lot of horses, man.
That's the drawback.
What if it's like a new spin on the West where instead of horses, it's like all the same. It's all the Old West, but instead of horses, they ride motorcycles.
That I'm into.
Yeah. I have never professionally drawn a Western. I've done a few like sample pages and stuff along the way. I actually did 3 Jonah Hex pages way back when, as just like portfolio pages.
Nice.
But aside from that, I haven't done a I would love to. It's I mean, there's so many people who have done it great that it's tough to top at this point. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because Image was they were greenlighting all these sci-fi books one after the other for years now. And even Tokyo Ghost, I made the same mistake. Rick and I were talking about just doing straight up samurai, and we're like, well, it's a comic. It really needs flying cars and laser guns and blah, blah, blah. So we made it like sci-fi samurai, whatever. And I wish we hadn't. I wish we had just gone with straight up samurai because everyone else at Image, we didn't know this. Image didn't tell us like, hey, you guys can do what you want. But just so you know, everyone else is doing sci-fi this year. So I wish we had just done straight up samurai, and I feel like right now is a great time to release a straight up Western from Image. Although you could argue that Walking Dead is kind of a Western.
Sure, in that sort of like meta or postmodern kind of way. Sure. I know there's one book, I don't know if it's still going, but it was going for a long time, called East of West. That is. Oh,
that's right.
Yeah.
Again, sci-fi Western.
That's a sci-fi Western. Yeah. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how a straight up Western does in the market at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. the desire for that might not be huge. Like, I love pirate stuff, but I don't think pirate stuff is really big right now.
Sure.
And I'm willing to bet that Western stuff's kind of hit and miss too. Like Red Redemption came out, and that probably fanned the flames a little bit. Again, the new Western to me seems like it's Walking Dead. That's sort of the new version in a way.
Mm-hmm. And even that is like, if the new Western is like the post-apocalypse kind of thing, even that's pretty played out at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But I mentioned before, I did draw the man with no name in the back of, in Joe the Barbarian, I drew a toy that looks like a cowboy.
Yes.
And it was the most generic looking cowboy. It was like he had a poncho and it had a scribble on it. And it was nothing. It was the size of a thumbprint. And it was massive, 2-page spread of all these characters who were clearly ripoffs of IP. Mm-hmm. Like Bumblebee, Picard, Lobo. Well, Disney or
DC owns Lobo, that.
Yeah. But the one that they had a problem with was like, you got to change the man to no name, because whoever owned that comic was very litigious and they just didn't want to get sued.
That's really interesting because, you did straight up, like, not even trying to hide it, draw Jean-Luc Picard in that book.
They changed it with colors, and like I drew He-Man, and I drew the exact the straps that He-Man wears with like the red cross in the middle. Like I drew all that stuff exactly, and I think that they moved some stuff around in post. And I'm glad that they did, because honestly, I should have thought twice before doing that, but I was an idiot.
Sure.
But yeah, the man with no name. That was just, to this day, I'm stunned.
Yeah. But getting back to the actual episode for a little bit, I guess.
Sorry, yeah.
How do you? What's your take on the meat of the Jonah Hex story?
I like it. It was pretty straightforward. The bounty hunter. I love the voice actor they got to do Jonah Hex. I love the look of him. I love how he was older and gruff. Like I remember as a kid being like, "Oh, this is cool. He's like an older guy, but he can still handle himself." I like that. And then it involves some steampunk type stuff by the end of it. And you got some of Ra's al Ghul's environmentalism in there, wanting to stop the railroad and all that.
Yeah.
Which I know for you, like you didn't know he was environmentalist at all until this series.
But interestingly, I think it works better in this story than it did in the first story, because the first story where he's just like large umbrella trying to stop the world from destroying the environment or some shit, that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around. Whereas in this one, he's knowing that he cares about the environment and whatnot. His plan is very specific to stop the Western expansion through the railroad, destroying all of this land and whatnot. But it has a nicely twisted supervillain aspect where he's like, I'm going to stop the railroad, and then I'm going to go straight to Washington and have them make me, I'm going to force them to declare me Master of America. So like, I think his thing works here because it's a little bit more focused in on exactly what he's trying to do and what he's trying to stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you would you want to draw an airship?
I don't have anything against it. I haven't done a lot of aerial vehicles yet, really. Yeah. So I think it would probably take me a little bit to wrap my mind around exactly how it worked and looked and stuff. But every time I flip through the wake, those ships that you drew at the end of the wake just make my eyes hurt for how many lines you had to keep track of and perspective and stuff.
Oh yeah, I had a 2-page spread that was a whiff. Like I swung and I missed. It was like a giant airship landing on a cliff, and I went with giant 2-page spread panel. This massive thing. I mean, the original art itself is like very little detail. It's really color based, and Matt did a good job on colors as he always does. But I wish I had done a more impressive shot than like a side view of an airship. I think in my head I thought the massive size of this thing will carry the panel. Like that's what I'm relying on. It's just this huge shape. Like, is it an easy panel? Yes, but maybe it'll be effective. And as I look back at that, I'm like, nope, not effective.
Yeah.
But eventually I had to draw so many of those things. I started to make sense of it later on.
How do you feel about the kind of steampunky element? Like, what would you... I'm kind of torn because it does keep it kind of interesting from a kid show angle, where it's like it's not just the West.
That's a good question.
It's not just the West,
thought about that.
Because the West can be kind of boring for kids. Like I said, I thought westerns were really boring until I actually was a little bit older and kind of could appreciate them a little bit more. Which is ironic, going off a little bit of a tangent, because like when my dad was a kid, kids loved westerns. So I don't know. Right. I don't know where the disconnect comes from.
I know. But, well, because your dad liked westerns, so you and I automatically have like my dad liked the Hardy Boys. Yeah. I don't like the Hardy Boys.
But yeah, how do you feel about the steampunk nature of it versus if they had just done like a more ground level western with Jonah Hex?
Fighting on a train instead of
Sure.
Yeah, even as a kid, I thought that's kind of a science fiction twist because, steam technology, as amazing as it is, I don't think it would have gotten you all the stuff that they were drawing. Right. So there's some fantasy elements in there, and I don't think it's impressive, but you're right. Like I'm wondering about the version of the story that's just a straight up chase on a train or something.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
do you like it?
I'm on the fence because I do think it's interesting. I think what they do is really nice. Like I said, the animation is great. I love the sword fight between Arcady and Jonah Hex on like the deck of the airship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that you get that much more that you wouldn't get out of if they were on like a giant train or something or something a little bit more grounded. I'm not sure. Especially
because they're fighting the railroad and they have a train heading towards Washington, D.C. I don't know.
Yeah, if the train was the bomb or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because
that's cool.
I don't when I see that stuff now anyway, as a kid, I don't think you really think about this, but watching it now, my first question was like, where did Ra's al Ghul get all these men? Like, what is he like?
Well, you have to get rid of that. You can't ask yourself that question when you watch Batman. Period, because everyone has
it's like that question of like, who built the Death Star? Sort of like how many people did they actually kill when they blew the Death Star up? Because if it's like the size of a small moon, and just like maintenance staff alone is I don't want to lift an entire scene from Clerks here, but
I would love for you to do a one shot about the brand manager's great-great-grandfather selling all this stuff to Ra's al Ghul.
And then he's like, I've made so much money. I'm going to leave the West. I'm moving back to Gotham, and I'm buying a piece of land that my son is going to inherit.
You got to do a little bit of a Western twang, though, but generally keep that accent.
Yeah. I don't know if I can add a Western twang to that accent.
I know, I couldn't. In my brain, I'm like, can I do that? I'm like, nope, I can't do it at all.
I mean, I'm just waiting for the high sign to do 6 issues of just the brand manager. So,
yeah, man. I mean, we've got I think I've mentioned this every podcast that you do and I do now, but we have this villain called the Producer, who's basically setting up new villains in Gotham, and it's begging to have a brand manager guy working with him somehow, providing all of this like used stage equipment.
I think it's the opposite. I think the brand manager would not like the producer because the producer's trying to horn in on his territory. Because
that's even better.
Brand manager is the one guy they all come to for their shit, and then the producer shows up like a friggin' Halloween store, and he's like, "Well, he's a new guy. I've been doing this for 35 years."
Yeah.
All of a sudden, villain Walmart shows up and putting me out of business.
Yeah, the brand manager is like very old school, pretty grounded guy of the street, blue collar, and the brand manager is like liberal art reject guy who just loves he dresses in a stage curtain, whatever.
Yeah,
like, he's just way
inherited
too goofy for brand
money.
Manager.
Brand manager's been doing the family business for 45 years, and all of a sudden the producer shows up with his inherited money and just throwing stuff around, making new gimmick villains, and it just doesn't sit well with him.
Yep. And then, the brand manager can actually create his own new villain using scraps from around his warehouse. Like, I've got, a nice leather jacket over there. You can be whatever the fuck. Just be that. Now go after this guy, take down my competition, whatever.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Producer. It's nice to meet you. I'd like to introduce you to my newest creation, my fucking lawyer. But anyway.
Yeah. So, it just occurred to me, because they have an airship in this, Gotham City has police airships. They could have done a way to connect it in that sense. Like, I don't know.
I get what they're trying to do, where they're like, they're really grasping for a hook to make this not only relevant to Batman the show, but also like
kids.
Well, not also to kids, but just like having this twist at the end about it being his son is like a desperate attempt to give the story some meaning other than it just
for all
being...
of those of you who wondered why the hell we would waste 22 of your minutes doing a cowboy story. Well, that's his son.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Everyone leave. Don't ask any questions. News conference over.
Right. Exactly. Like it's, I don't know. I think they could have figured out a way to tie it in a little bit better. And
I mean, Ra's al Ghul was really leaning on his ability to sell this story to Batman on a cassette tape.
I know. He must have been an incredible
narrator.
narrator.
Was like, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't snatch your kid in the middle of the night. Maybe Batman will listen to the tape. Maybe he doesn't have. Maybe he's got a CD player.
Yeah. What if
that actor? What's his name? Who does
David Warner?
He's like, we got David Warner. He can sell anything on tape.
Yeah.
Fucking Batman is going to believe every word he says on this tape. Roll.
I know. Could you imagine if like Batman pulled up and he's like, I see. Did you listen to the tape? And Batman's like, actually, no. I didn't pay for the tape deck. I just have an AM radio.
It was Robin's turn to play the music today, and he picked the Beach Boys.
Yeah. The tape was in the deck. Robin popped it out. He threw in the Flock of Seagulls, and I couldn't say no.
Why was it important?
I just love.
By the way, you're under arrest.
I love that song they do. I love it.
Yeah. So this is the last time we see Ra's al Ghul in the series. Then
is it really? Wow.
It might be.
He doesn't come back in the second series.
Maybe in the season. What I know is season 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Let's see. Do a quick.
He should have, because there was a couple of real
bad
episodes.
He shows up in. It says he appeared in Batman the Animated Series. Then he appears in Superman the Animated Series, and he shows up in Batman Beyond.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow. Man, what a really weird use of Ra's al Ghul in this show. Because
there's an episode
I think of him
in season 4 that has these fucking farm animals as villains, and you're telling me they should have. Why can't you not do that and do Ra's al Ghul?
Yeah, like I feel like Ra's al Ghul's presence in my memory is so much bigger than his actual appearances on this show.
Yeah, it's the actor, man.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and the guy who plays his son is Malcolm McDowell from Clockwork Orange and a million other movies.
Yeah, cool. So what would you draw on this?
I think I would probably draw. I might be only thinking this because I'm in the middle of drawing like a sword fight sort of thing for my book Bloody Hell. I would do the knife and sword fight with Jonah Hex on the and Arcady on the deck of the ship. Just because that's really cool. I would draw anything with Jonah Hex. If I wanted to choose the easier answer, I would just want to do like a solid classic Western splash page of Jonah Hex in like a old Western town or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to go for the sword fight too, obviously. But I'm trying to think of a more interesting answer. Maybe one of Batman putting the tape
listening to the tape. Yeah.
And it's like remember CD It, those really expensive tapes that Sony used to sell you, and they were supposed to be better at recording off of CDs. It was bullshit.
No, I don't remember that at all.
But I would go real specific to like 1992 technology, certain types of tape players. No one would read this. It would be a terrible scene. No one would want to see me draw it. I'm not saying this is a good idea.
What if you did? You do the beginning of this is a whole issue, right? You do the beginning where Ra's al Ghul kidnaps the guy. Then you get to the scene where Batman gets into the car and he sees the tape is there, but his tape player's broken, so he has to listen to it with headphones through his Walkman. And then the next 15 pages is Batman driving to meet Ra's al Ghul, listening to his headphones. So he's hearing the story, but we don't get to hear what the story is. So you're not doing it narrative boxes. You're just like Batman driving with headphones on, and then all of a sudden his like eyes will widen at like a really exciting part. And then when he gets out at the end, Ra's is like, "I see you listen to the tape," and he's like, "I did. It was amazing. I can't even describe how good that story was."
You're free. I understand you now completely. No, what I love about the Walkman idea is you can do the Sony Walkman, the Sport, which was yellow, and it had like it was skip free for 12 seconds, whatever, and then would start skipping, and that would totally be on his belt. It would blend in perfectly because he has a yellow belt.
Yes. Yeah, that would be a great. I bet there's someone out there who's done one of those like redesigns where it's like the Batman characters, but they're all in high school, and I'm sure somebody put a yellow Walkman or a Discman on his belt.
Yeah. I can't believe that no one has thought of a way to create like a retro style Walkman looking thing that holds your phone, and I'm sure someone has.
Oh, I think they have. I know there's definitely retro looking Walkman things that are actually like MP3 players or something like that. So it's out there, yeah.
You know, I do miss the headsets those came with because they went into your ears, and it was the classic over-the-head type thing. It was a cheap piece of wire. But I love those, and I fucking hate the earbuds. I don't know if my ears are too narrow or whatever. I've never found a good... Even like the Beats that are super expensive, I've never had good luck with those things.
Yeah, once they started coming out with earbuds that didn't have a wire, I'm like, those are going to fall out of my ear on day one, and fall into a sewer grate, and that's going to be like $100 down the drain, literally. Yeah.
I went on a deep search to find the best headphones, Bluetooth, and they cover my ears. They're super big and clumsy, but they work great. It sounds great. I haven't had to replace them yet, and they're as awkward as they look. I know they're not the coolest thing, but whatever. I love them.
Yeah. I've always liked the over-the-ear ones, but I guess we're just old men at this point. Old men screaming about cartoon shows on the internet.
It just happens, man. There's no way to get around it. Like, how many things do you say a day that sounds like stuff that your dad might have said?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's every day I do something where I do that exact same thing. We're like, oh my God, that's something something my father has done.
Like, he's defending John Wayne. We're defending Sony Walkman.
Or Clint Eastwood at this point. I mean, Clint Eastwood is in the same position as that John Wayne was when I was a kid by this point,
Yeah.
Regardless of who they were as are as people and their political beliefs, Clint Eastwood had always made better movies than John Wayne. John Wayne is a terrible actor, always has been. I don't understand the appeal. I'll stop there. I used to when I was younger. Sorry, I'm going off now. When I was younger, I used to legitimately ask questions back when IMDb had a message board. I would be like, could somebody please tell me what you see in John Wayne as an actor? And every single time I did that, someone removed the thread. And I don't know why. I wasn't trying to start a fight. I was just legitimately interested in what was appealing about John Wayne. Because I would watch, like, if you ever watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, great movie. It's the guy from It's a Wonderful Life, whose name is Jimmy Stewart. It's Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne, and Lee Marvin. I can't remember who the female lead is because they were pretty relegated to the background in these Westerns. It was probably like Donna Reed or something. And it's, Jimmy Stewart's awesome. Lee Marvin is awesome. You got John Wayne. The only thing he's there to do is look cool and say one-liners, and he can't even do it right. It's like it's just like, that's the best take we had. We need to move on.
Is he the Keanu Reeves of that generation?
No, because Keanu Reeves seems to legitimately be an amazing person, and John Wayne is a piece of shit.
Politically, too.
Yes.
I think he said some stuff that both the right and left are not cool with now. Some of the stuff he said did not age well. I don't care who you voted for.
He's a trash person. They should not name an airport after him. Anyway.
I mean, how did he even get started? I mean, was it his swagger? It wasn't his six-pack. It wasn't his acting ability. It wasn't he was good looking.
Well, he started in I believe he started. Well, thank you for coming to the John Wayne podcast. The John Wayne Sucks
thing
podcast.
You never thought you'd be a part of, Clay.
Yeah. I believe he got his start in silent era Westerns, like the tail end of the silent era. And then he was just on the forefront of the Western boom when the sound movies came in, and he was a really handsome guy when he was young. And so I think his stature, because he was a big dude, so I think his presence and his look got him a long way. And he does have a very specific style, if you want to call it a style. I think it's just him sounding like an idiot. But he has a very specific style of delivering lines, not unlike someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, where it's like
right.
whether or not he's a good actor is up for debate, but the way he says stuff is so identifiable that becomes part of the brand,
Yeah, it is a little bit Stallone like in some ways because he has a way of saying things that only he's bigger than the characters.
Exactly.
In a way.
Yeah.
It's a shtick. It's a cheap shtick, maybe, but it works for some people.
Right. Yeah. You're going when you go to see a John Wayne movie. That's what you're going to see, a John Wayne movie. You're not going to see a movie starring John Wayne. He never falls into the character the way some other people do.
Right. Like I went to see Schwarzenegger movies. I didn't care that it was Eraser.
Right.
I'm like, whatever. It's Schwarzenegger. I heard a story about I don't know a lot about John Wayne. I heard he was a dick. Maybe that's not true. If someone who's related to him is listening to this, I apologize.
Way to go to bat for John Wayne.
At this point.
Okay.
I guess he was in a movie and later on in his career, and they wanted him to lose a fight, or he was the bad guy, or some shit like that. So he had a fist fight, rumbling and tumbling in the dirt and tumbleweeds, and he was supposed to lose. And he gets hit and knocked down, and then they yell cut. And he gets up and he punches the other actor in the face, just because he's John Wayne and he doesn't ever lose a fight.
Sure.
If that story's true, and for the sake of this argument, I'm gonna just pretend that it's 100% true. What a fucking asshole!
Yeah. Sounds right. I believe it. I don't care.
It sucks because someone who's related to John Wayne, who only hears shit about his great-great-grandfather, is like, you know what? I'm going to take a day off from being a Wayne. I'm going to listen to a Batman podcast. Oh, this one has Jonah Hex in it. Please don't mention my dad. Please don't mention my great-great-grandfather.
Hey, well, maybe he'll get lucky. He or she'll get lucky, and he'll find out that 100 years ago or 500 years ago, his family got switched, and he's not really a Wayne. So there you go. Case closed.
Ooh.
Pulling it back to Batman.
Clay.
Yeah.
Boom. Has anyone done a story where Bruce Wayne is related to John Wayne?
Ooh, I don't know. Actually, that would be interesting. That should have been that should have been the crux of Curse of White Knight. Is that Azrael tells Batman that he's related to John Wayne, and Bruce is just so appalled by that.
No, he dives into it. He's like, oh. And he loves John Wayne. He's like, I'm going to start walking around like that now. You're in the wrong town, Riddler.
You're not getting past
sound of him
me,
walking.
Azrael.
Well, saddle up there, Robin. Put on your gay little slippers and let's go for some adventures.
That sounds like accurate John Wayne dialogue, yes.
Right, that's right. It's not offensive because I didn't say it.
Right.
John Wayne would have said that.
Yeah, theoretical
everybody.
John Wayne. That's who you should have the problem with, not Sean.
I can't wait till we see the John Wayne YouTube channel attack us in the comments section.
I've been waiting for that fight my whole life. I'm looking forward to it. What would you rate this episode?
I'm gonna go low 4.
Yeah. I'm so conflicted because I think it is 4 level execution. But it's just the way that they ham-fistedly jammed this Jonah Hex episode. I'm not going to let that bother me. It's a 4. It's good. It's worth watching.
Yeah,
the story's a lot of fun.
But it seems to know that it's doing that,
right,
though.
Yeah.
It knows that it's weakly tethered.
Right. Yeah. I also think I don't know this for sure, and I don't see it listed anywhere. But I think this is the first time a non-Batman affiliated DC Comics character shows up in the show. Because Zatanna has shown up, but she has like a tangential relationship to Batman. But Jonah Hex is never comes anywhere near Batman. He's just another DC Comics character.
Huh. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's like if Booster Gold showed up or something,
Which he eventually does in Batman. Well, I guess with Justice League, rather.
Right. Yeah. Justice League, they kind of break the dam open on that, but. They have.
Are we going to review all those? I've never seen all the Justice Leagues, and I'm not sure I have the patience to sit through some of that
we
stuff.
have to finish this show first, and then we have to do Batman Beyond, and then.
All right. Hopefully, I'll be dead by
then. 7 years from now, if we're still doing this, and looking for something to do, maybe we can move to this.
Well, I might have to fast forward it because I do want to dive into some of that stuff for future volumes of White Knight. So instead of reading a bunch of comics, I just would rather watch the cartoon.
Right.
Get to take the clip notes.
Why read the comics? It's not like you work in them or anything.
You actually read a comic book?
No, I know how this works at this point. I read the comics, you ask me the questions, and you write the book.
You're my Wikipedia, man. You're my data.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And a really great editor and a friend.
There it is. Is that John Wayne speaking, or is that Sean? So that's going to do it for Showdown and Lion and the Unicorn. If you like the show, please give us a rating review on iTunes. That would be much appreciated. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can shoot us an email at battasspodcast@gmail.com. Once we finish this season, we're going to do another wrap-up episode. And I'm thinking, I believe the Mr. Freeze movie, animation style-wise, is in line with this series. So I figure we'll probably do that.
Yeah, we have to watch that in between.
Yeah, we'll do that between seasons 3 and 4, and we'll probably double that up and do like we did with Mask of the Phantasm. We'll do Mr. Freeze and a question and answer if people are still listening by that point. If it's just the extended estate of John Wayne sending us hate mail, I don't know if we'll do it. But
oh man.
But yeah, so that's gonna do it for these two. Thanks for joining us. Next time we'll be back with we just did Showdown. Next time we'll be back with Riddler's Reform and Second Chance. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks, guys.